What if Luffy died and ate the Yomi Yomi no Mi? What if Luffy never ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi and instead got the Yomi Yomi no Mi? Not the one we know, but a forbidden version hidden by the world government. With powers to control gravity, darkness, and nullify other devil fruits, how would Luffy's journey change? Would he become unstoppable? Or would this new power bring unexpected challenges? How Luffy would have gotten the Yomi Yomi no Mi. Imagine if the iconic devil fruit, the Yomi Yomi no Mi, was at the center of Luffy's journey instead of the Gomu Gomu no Mi. But in this alternate world, the fruit is far more dangerous than the version we know. This forbidden fruit has terrifying powers, so dangerous that even the Gorosei, those secretive rulers of the world, erased its true nature from history and renamed it to hide what it really was. So why would Shanks, of all people, end up with the Yomi Yomi no Mi? Well, consider this. The Gorosei, in their quest to maintain control over the world, know the danger this fruit possesses. It's the kind of fruit that could destroy their carefully constructed order, but when Shanks stumbles upon it, instead of keeping it for himself, he sees the threat it could pose in the wrong hands. Shanks, with his strong sense of honor and balance, takes it away from the Gorosei to prevent anyone from misusing it. The fruit finds its way into the hands of Luffy, who, in this alternate timeline, ends up consuming it instead of Blackbeard. Luffy eating the Yomi Yomi no Mi, or rather, this hidden corrupted version of it, changes everything. This devil fruit, reimagined in this timeline as a dark fruit, grants the user the ability to create, control, and manipulate darkness. Unlike the Gomu Gomu no Mi, the Yomi Yomi no Mi can nullify other devil fruits, making Luffy an even more terrifying opponent. His power to control gravity and darkness means he's not just a rubbery pirate anymore, he's a force to be reckoned with. With enough training, Luffy could master space manipulation, turning him into a walking weapon capable of effortlessly defeating his enemies. His adventure just got a whole lot more dangerous. Luffy's journey in East Blue. Luffy's journey in East Blue would be wildly different if he had the power of the Yomi Yomi no Mi, also known in this timeline as the dark fruit. From the start, you'd still recognize him, the same brave, optimistic pirate with a huge dream of becoming the Pirate King. But now, he's not just stretching his body like rubber. Instead, he's manipulating darkness, gravity, and even space itself. The first major shift happens when Luffy rescues Kobe from Alvida. In the original story, Luffy uses his rubber powers to easily take down Alvida, but with the Yomi Yomi no Mi, he'd be able to make Alvida and her crew powerless by simply nullifying their abilities, pulling them into his dark influence and completely overwhelming them. The fight would be even easier, and it wouldn't even require much effort from him. Then comes Luffy's run-in with Captain Morgan, and once again, the Yomi Yomi no Mi makes things simpler. Captain Morgan is already no match for Luffy, but with Luffy's gravity manipulation abilities, Morgan's big, slow attacks would be practically useless. Luffy could make Morgan feel the weight of his actions, pulling him down with gravity or even controlling his movements. A quick, decisive win for Luffy, just like before, but with way more flair. When Luffy faces Buggy the Clown, things go similarly to how they played out in the original timeline. Buggy's devil fruit powers don't stand a chance against Luffy's newfound abilities. Luffy doesn't even need to stretch his body to get the upper hand. With his dark powers, he could easily control the space around Buggy, pulling him closer or pushing him away, and nullifying any tricks Buggy might try to pull off. It's a win in the bag, and Luffy's crew begins to take shape. Speaking of his crew, this version of Luffy would still meet Zoro, and after that, he'd recruit Usopp. But this time, Luffy's acquisition of the Going Merry would be even more fitting. With his overwhelming power, he could easily defeat any of the East Blue's pirates, and he'd probably have no problem taking on even stronger foes. His ability to manipulate darkness would make him an even scarier opponent than before. And Usopp would quickly recognize that Luffy's journey would be one for the history books. So, he'd join up, and the crew would continue growing. The impact of the Yomi Yomi no Mi in Arlong Park and Logtown. When Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates reach Arlong Park, things go down differently because of Luffy's new powers from the Yomi Yomi no Mi. In the original timeline, Luffy had to deal with the unpredictable, fierce nature of Arlong's crew. But now, with the ability to manipulate darkness and gravity, Luffy has a whole new level of control over the situation. He faces off against Arlong's men with more caution and strategy. His darkness-based abilities give him an edge that wasn't there before, making the entire battle more manageable. Arlong, who relies on brute strength and his devil fruit powers, suddenly finds himself at a disadvantage against Luffy's newfound abilities. Luffy's overwhelming power is going to make Arlong's reign a lot shorter and much easier for Luffy to topple. Then, when Luffy and his crew reach Log Town, the difference in Luffy's abilities becomes even more apparent. In the original series, Buggy managed to capture Luffy at one point, but with the Yomi Yomi no Mi, Luffy isn't so easily trapped. His gravity manipulation allows him to pull himself out of tight situations effortlessly. As Luffy begins to unlock the full potential of the Yomi Yomi no Mi, the world starts to take notice. Whispers spread that this isn't just any devil fruit, that Luffy may be using a power once sealed away for a reason. How does Luffy compare to his original self? So, how does Luffy compare to his original self with the Yomi Yomi no Mi? Honestly, he's a lot stronger, but in a different way. The Yomi Yomi no Mi is one of the most powerful devil fruits out there. Instead of being stretchy like the Gum Gum fruit, Luffy gains the ability to create and manipulate darkness, which gives him insane control over gravity and space. He can nullify other devil fruit abilities just by touching them, making him an even scarier opponent. Luffy loses his trademark stretching ability, but what he gains is the power to bend the very fabric of reality. Imagine being able to control gravity or create black holes. Luffy could turn an entire battlefield to his advantage. His powers might not be as versatile in terms of physical combat, but they make him a force of destruction. With this kind of power, Luffy's fighting style would change, but he'd be stronger than ever, especially with the potential for huge, devastating moves. The Straw Hat Pirates' adventures in the Grand Line. Luffy's adventures in the Grand Line would be way different with the Yomi Yomi no Mi. Take Little Garden, for example. In the original timeline, the Straw Hats face off against Mr. 3, who uses his wax-based powers to create traps and obstacles. But with Luffy's ability to manipulate darkness and gravity, Mr. 3 doesn't stand a chance. Luffy could easily nullify his attacks, overpower him, and win the battle in no time. The fight would be over before Mr. 3 even realizes what hit him. Then, in Arabasta, things get even more interesting. Crocodile, the master of sand, relies heavily on his devil fruit abilities in battle. But with Luffy's new powers, Crocodile's sand-based attacks are useless. Luffy can nullify them just by touching them, making the whole fight far easier than it originally was. Luffy's strategy would shift from relying on his resilience to using his darkness-based powers to crush Crocodile's attacks and defeat him with ease. Moving on to Thriller Bark, things change again. Moria, who isn't known for his physical strength, would have no way of matching Luffy's new powers. Luffy could quickly nullify Moria's shadows, essentially neutralizing his ability to fight back. It would be an easy victory for Luffy, making the Straw Hat Pirates' battle with Moria much less difficult. The key difference: no time. Skip. One of the biggest changes in this alternate timeline is the absence of the time skip. In the original series, Luffy's growth came in part from the trauma of Ace's death at Marineford. That loss pushed him to train intensely for 2 years, and during that time, each member of the Straw Hat Pirates honed their skills to become much stronger and more experienced. But without Ace's death, Luffy doesn't face that same emotional catalyst. Without that motivation, Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates don't go through the same kind of growth. Sure, they're still strong, but they miss out on the valuable time spent apart, training for future challenges. Luffy, without the grief of losing someone close to him, doesn't push himself to the limits the way he did in the original timeline. As a result, he and his crew aren't as polished or battle-hardened. They don't have that extra layer of experience that comes with the harsh training they'd go through during the 2-year break. This key difference would have a huge impact on their ability to handle more powerful opponents in the future. While they still have the same determination and strength, they might not be as prepared as they would have been if they'd gone through that intense training. So, the Straw Hat Pirates in this timeline would face bigger challenges in the Grand Line and New World simply because they didn't go through the same evolution. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.